12 spies were sent into the land with a mission. 12 succeed, but only 2 were allowed to enter the land, the 2 that kept their eyes on God.
Every woman in this room has a calling and a purpose.
If you want to know whether Promised Land Living's for you, the first question you need to ask yourself is, how hungry are you for God?
All I was looking to do was to be set free from the things that bound me to this world. And that's what God can do for every single one of you guys.
I knew I was free from my bondage to sin. I knew I was saved. I knew I was heaven bound. I had those securities, but I didn't know how to operate in freedom in my relationships here on earth.
It was difficult for me to believe that I could have a lie that was affecting my life.
When people complete Promised Land Living, they are noticeably transformed.
Promised Land Living, at its core, is taking truth we know to be evident in Scripture and making it self-evident in our lives. This is what Joshua and Caleb did. While the 10 were fixated on what they couldn't do and what they thought the enemy might do, Joshua and Caleb focused on what God would do.
I knew I had to step out of the box because God created me to be special and to be me. And living in a box, I was sinning. I was not being who God created me to be.
Promised Land Living, giving you clarity on who you were created to be by the Creator.
We still pushed him out. We're doing all this in our own strength. We are borrowing from the corporate world, the culture around us, and we're trying to use their tools to live God's life.
I'd been a Christian for quite some time, and it was difficult for me to believe that I could have a lie that was affecting my life.
Promised Land helped me find the truth. There's 1,000 lies out there, and there's only one truth.
Promised Land Living, giving you conviction to function at a higher level.
Let me just admit to you now, it's scary. But I am not going to let fear determine my actions. That's a life that's living in a state of reaction.
I think the one that had the most impact on me was the session on 100% responsibility, specifically when it talks about releasing the outcome, which is something that in my past that I've been reluctant to do. And I never really even knew that that was an issue in my life.
So we move from clarity of mind, conviction, and out of that conviction, out of really understanding the truth about God and the truth of who He's created to be, new growth comes. Now we have courage to act, and things change, and life starts to bloom for us.
Promised Land Living, giving you courage to move out of your comfort zone and truly live the life God has designed for you.
Well, I had always heard that God has a plan specifically for me, and I had also received good advice over the years from Christian women that I admire, that I should not compare myself to other people, but until I truly understood that God has set me apart for something in particular, I just couldn't get away from the comparing game.
How can you draw from God's strength and be steadfast in that situation?
Well, we've used many excellent tools and resources over the years to help people grow, and especially working on developing and training effective leaders, but by far one of the best has been Promised Land Living.
I began to respond differently to my coworkers and to my wife and to my family. They could see that, that there was a difference. My wife even was kind of like, wow, who is this guy?
That's what Promised Land Living is about. That's what we hope people will walk away with. People don't walk out of Promised Land Living suddenly conquering the world. But most people leave Promised Land Living with their hearts set on following God.
We've seen people, men and women, move into an active, participatory role in their relationship with God rather than kind of being passive, which so many people tend to do. We've seen marriages revitalized as one or both of the partners have completed the process.
I didn't realize how much striving I was doing in my life and how much freedom there was to be gained.
She just seemed more at peace and more at ease in life. She didn't hold on to things for long periods of time. So I just saw a tremendous change in her, and it just really freed her up to grow in her walk. I think she was a better wife.
My passion is to see women of every age involved in Promised Land living, but especially women who are in that stage of life where they feel there's just not enough minutes in the day to get done what God has called them to do. This helps you set priorities and organize your life around what God is calling you to do, not what you feel you need to be doing.
Without the process of seeking God, how He made me and my essence, without that process, I never would have discovered where to go, where to look, where my giftings were. And because of that process, now I'm leading a small group of wonderful women. I have a passion for it, I have a drive for it, I have a love for it. There's nothing like it.
Promised Land living is not for the faint-hearted, but it is for those who are hungry, who yearn to live a life that is truly pleasing to Him.
Promised Land living was absolutely worth the time, the efforts, and the tears, and the heartache for me to go through, because now I'm happy and joyful. I'm hopeful.
I use it in my small group, I use it in my workplace, I use it in my relationships, everywhere. It's touched every part of my life.
God has a promised land for you. You may not be in it, and if you're not in it right now, you need to get in it. Otherwise, you're gonna miss out on what God has for your life.
I heartily recommend it to any church, any pastor who is looking for something to help their people move from where they are to where we really dreamed that they would be.